a remarkable story and adventure that only you can create.
We exist to motivate and equip you to live fully alive.
We are so glad that you've joined us. This is Fully Alive 342.
This
is part 3 of a 3-part series. We've had our 3, we've had our 4, and this part is this is about the number 2.
Hi there, my name is Dan.
My name is Suzie. Together we are Doozy.
Today is all about you, and you can. Not you should, this is a you can live and lead fully alive by experiencing the 3, 4, 2.
That's right. So leaders, this is for you. This is because it's important to belong, connect, and grow. Belonging is a really important aspect in any group dynamics. So creating a safe space where everybody feels like they can belong. And then the connections can be together so that we can learn together and with and have forming relationships and growing. And this week in particular is about growing, especially with the 2 aspects we're going to get to. It's important to grow as we belong and connect. It creates an environment for us to have growth in.
So I ask you, as you're watching this, set your mind to a growth mindset. You want to grow. You want to learn here. You belong and you connect. But now it's time to grow. There's a verse that we've been using all through this series, and it's John 10:10. Probably one of my favorite verses.
Yes.
Because it has to do with life. The word is Zoe, which is vibrant. It is quality. It is a life blessed by God. The verse starts off with Jesus talking about a thief that comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. And he's referring to the religious leaders there that was all about, you don't have any freedom. Just obey the law. Just always do what is right or you will. And that wasn't life. And Jesus came that they may have life and have it to the full. And this is such a great thing as a leader. Whenever you step into a small group, whenever you're in a conversation, even whenever you're saying, it's time to go to bed or whatever you're doing, you say to those people, even in your mind, I've come here at this moment that you may have life. It's an incredible way to live.
Yeah. So in our 3, we talked about the B of belonging. Our 3 B's. Be you. This is be you, the identity that you were given by God, created. You are uniquely created in your mother's womb. And do you know it full well? Be you. Be also free to be you. Sometimes we know who we are in our identity and our self, but we don't have the freedom to do that. And be we is the belonging, the community aspect of it. And this is really important for you yourself as a leader, but it's also important to facilitate this be of belong. Be you, be free, be we.
And then we went to the 4, and the 4 had to do with your connections. Connecting with excellence. When we're connecting, it does something for them. It does something for yourself if it's done with excellence. And it starts off with this, and it's interact.
Step into their world.
Interest. It's grabbing their interest, capturing them. Curiosity is there for a reason. Grab their interest. And then it's
and catch them with what is interesting to them. Connect to that point.
Right. What's interesting to them.
Yeah.
Not just you. What's interesting to them.
That's right.
Then there is involve. And involve is you're inviting them into this. Yeah, the meeting should go totally different if they're not there. They need to feel that they are a part of it. And then finally,
inspiration.
Inspire them, because that's the door that opens that they can run through. You don't have to walk them along. When they're inspired, they will move and probably move even farther than you.
So that's where we've been the last 2 weeks, and now we're on the 2. So you can grow your fully alive impact through 2 bits. One is active listening.
And the other is powerful questions.
And that's where we're going today. Thank you so much for being here. To get started, there are 3 ways of investing in people. One is counseling.
Now, let me tell you a little bit of counseling. We hear a lot about counseling. Counseling should focus on your past. areas in which you are stuck in, areas in which I want to move forward, but I can't because there's something. My dad did this, or this happened to me, or I was sick. Something happened, and you need a person to go back with you in time,
Yeah.
to find some healing back there.
Yeah.
So a way, and this is a very valid way to invest in someone, is you counsel them about things in the past that are holding them back. There is a cage that they are still locked in, and counseling hopefully goes back, helps you process and get that cage open.
Okay, second way to invest in people is mentoring. This is present. This is right now oriented. Mentoring oftentimes has an expert or a leader of some type who knows or is an expert by experience, by training, and then they take on a mentee and they invest. This is very much telling, very much showing, very much journeying together, and that mentoring really helps. There's a lot of mentoring that happens when you get a new job and your leader, your supervisor over you mentors you right now in the present of what you need to know and how to do it. And that's a very valid way of investing in people as well. And we see it often and need this as well.
Right. So both in counseling and in mentoring, active listening and powerful questions are really important. But when you get to the area of coaching, it is a must. You must be able to spend time actively listening, setting those ears. It's like that radar. You zoom in on what are they saying, and you ask powerful questions that they may say more. Because the whole idea in coaching is that we're trying to launch them forward. Think about a rocket taking off. The goal of a coach is
Moving
to launch
forward.
them forward. It's not about you. It's getting them to fly and to move forward.
Yeah, and this is very future oriented. It's taking them right where they are. It's very person oriented. It's unique to them, and it's taking them forward into the future in a way that you help be on that journey to help them process. Active listening and powerful questions.
So remember that there are 3 valid ways, but right now we're looking specifically at coaching because we want the young people that we're coaching to move forward.
So what is coaching? Keith Webb, he's the guy who trained us to be certified as life coaches. And he says, coaching is an ongoing, intentional conversation that empowers a person or group to fully live out God's calling. Now, when you look at this definition, I'm just wondering what words stand out to you. I want you right in the chat right now to type. You're seeing the definition there. What words or word concepts or little phrases stand out for you? For me, one of the things that stands out for me as I coach people is that it empowers a person or group. Usually we will be with a small group of individuals and it empowers them. It is focused on them as we have active listening. Then it's them that gets the power to live out God's calling or to take them in a forward direction to what's going on.
Yeah,
what
so
stands out to you?
Write yours down there in the chat. For me, it's definitely ongoing and intentional because coaching is normally not a one-off conversation. Right. Coaching normally is ongoing. You don't have to get everything done at this exact moment because there are more moments, and it's not by accident. It is intentional. So those are a couple of ones that would stand out to me. If I was typing in the chat right now, I would say ongoing and intentional. You would say empowers a person.
Yeah. So thank you for writing. Some of you might be writing this definition down, so at any time you can continue to write in the chat those parts that really stand out.
I think it also stands out to me God's calling. This is not where you want them to go, but you're in coaching as they're moving forward, having them get in step with why has God created them? So you're helping them move to those areas. That's why many times we have to be listening with the power of the Holy Spirit, because what does he want? Maybe totally different than what you've experienced. So we've got to keep in mind that they're fully alive in what God is calling them towards.
Active listening is a big part of it. Also, just in this whole process of coaching, It allows for what we call the transformational formula. This is a formula like a scientific formula. Like if you do this will happen.
Thanks for not saying math. Thanks for saying science. I like science a lot better than
science. Yeah, well, it could be math as well, but like it's a scientific formula or process, and we really want to be a part of the transformation of the people that we're coaching, that we're in small group with. Tell us about transformation. What is that? What could that look like?
Let me break it down a little bit. First of all, we start with formation. Formation is where you stand. It is a building. It is stability. It is a form, and that is really important. Transformation is to move that forward, to transit, to give it momentum.
Yeah.
And this is, sometimes people are like, well, doesn't that just happen? No, it doesn't just happen.
No.
And in a lot of people, that's why they get stuck. They have a formation that has come from information.
Yeah.
But they're not able to
fills the head only, but there's nothing that goes out
be
from
transformed. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind is what the Bible talks about. It is a moving ahead. How does that happen? Here's the formula.
All right, so let's look at the parts in the parentheses. It happens by discovery. So this is a part of the belonging. Like you get to be and be free and the we. So doing things as a group with a coach, with a leader, allows for discovery from the Bible, concepts, whatever. And then action has to happen.
Yeah.
So discovery, or this information like Dan's talking about, it goes into your head, but it doesn't move to the heart, or you don't have any action that results from the learning. So you discover it, but you do nothing with it. It's not going to transform your life. But a discovery plus action with reinforcement, and that's why coaching in this ongoing process that we learned about.
You remind them.
Yeah,
you remind
remember,
them.
we learned this before. So the discovery plus action plus reinforcement, those together provides for transformation.
But you're missing one thing. Up in the corner there is the Holy Spirit with the power. This is where the math
exponential
up in that corner there.
Exponential,
with
like
the power
to the power of 2, 4, but it's the Holy Spirit.
So transformation
Boom,
is discovery, action, reinforcement within the power of the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit wants to do something in that person's life, using you as the coach to do that. So we need to be listening to him. So it's listening to the person, listening to him, because the goal is transformation.
So I want you to drop in the chat a T. This is transformation. This is what we're going for. I hope you've taken notes of this screen, this picture, or you just snap a picture of it to remember. And this is what active listening and powerful questions, which we're unpacking for you at this time, is going to help you do.
So, for instance, this may be in your life. This formula is needed because you want to move past something. And what happens is maybe you pick up a book. Okay, we're reading a book right now, Live No Lie. Oh, there's discoveries in there.
John Mark Comer, great
Great
author.
discoveries in that book. But what if they only stay discoveries?
Yeah.
No. We have to sit down and how do we put this into action? How do we put this into action? We've now read the book
Live the
2
truth
times,
and
and we're going to
not
do
the
it
lies.
again because reinforcement is there.
Yeah,
and then
that's
we
right.
soak in it, and the Holy Spirit begins to teach you. So this works in all areas,
And
but
that
especially
allows
as
for
a coach.
transformation or change, forward momentum in our life.
Because we don't want to live stuck.
That's right.
And that's one of the great things about a coach is you can help
Okay,
people
so hope
get...
you've dropped your T. If you haven't yet, there's still time. Just put a T in the chat.
It's how to live unstuckable.
That's right. So active listening. I love this verse from James, chapter 1, verse 19. It says, "My dear friends, take note of this. Everyone should be
Slow to listen, quick to speak, quick to become angry."
Wait, that's not what it says at all.
What?
No.
I have a dyslexic
Like,
moment
the
there.
speeds are very, very different than you just said. Everyone should be quick to listen.
What did I say?
Use it slow.
Oh.
Slow to speak and slow to become angry. So the slow parts is speaking and the quick part is listening.
This is so different than today. The world we live is so programmed to be quick to speak. Let everybody know your opinion, and
Put it out
especially
there.
on Facebook, and you're a leader. Tell them what you know,
Socials.
and this is so beautiful because it's be slow. Enjoy the quiet. Enjoy having them talk, and become slow at getting angry. Don't get upset so easy, but be quick to listen. 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 That's a good verse to memorize.
Yeah. So here's a rule right here. 80-20. Have you heard of this rule?
I've heard of it.
80-20. What could 80-20 mean?
I've heard of the 80-20 rule for years.
Okay.
Back when I was working in a church, the rule meant that 80% of the work in the church is done by 20% of the people.
If you found this to be true, put yes in the chat.
Well, I also am very concerned about world poverty.
Yeah.
Because the 80-20% rule is there as well, that 80% of the wealth of the world belongs to 20% of the world
Ooh,
population.
not so good,
It's
huh?
another 80-20.
Okay, any other 80-20s you know
Well,
about?
there is one that deals with 80% of the effects that we see come from 20% of the causes. Now, that is, I think, originally where this concept comes from, but I have no idea what that's about.
What we want it to stand for is 80% of the time you should have a lot of active listening.
80% listening.
And only 20% is talking. And I love this quote by Steve. He said, if you're talking, you are not listening. And this is pretty true for me. I don't know about for you. Can you talk and listen at the same time? Not many of us can. And again, if you are talking or if you're thinking or you're formulating the next idea, the next thought that's coming out, it's as if you're talking because you're not able to listen. And the goal is to have active listening.
Let me prove this to you a little bit. If you've ever gone up to someone and says, "Hi, my name is," and they say their name, and you don't remember what they just said because you're trying to think, what am I going to say next? See, what that means is you were not able to listen to them say, Suzie, because you were thinking of something else. It literally stops. So as a coach, you have to give yourself permission to be quiet, to stop thinking, because there is needed time for nothing. Just listen. And if you only spend 20% of the conversation with you talking, that'll give you a whole lot more time to really know what's going on in that person's life.
All right, honest moment here. When we were doing our coaching training, we had to have our coach, our supervisor, just evaluate us. We had to submit an audio of a coaching session that we have. And then we didn't know what he was checking for, but we just submitted it. And one of the ones was he asked, do you know what percentage of the time that you were talking and listening? And I was like 50-50 because I thought, oh, it's so important to, like talk and ask questions. And then 50% of the time they talk. He said, no, actually, that's not so good. You want this 80-20. This was prior to me learning this. And it was like, oh, painful. Like, oh, I thought I was supposed to ask, engage, tell my story, do this and that. And I learned, nope. How did you do on that test?
My story is not as important as their story, especially as a coach. And on that test, I did very well.
He was a great listener. He had a person that was really engaged and talked, and he was a great coach to just ask the most powerful, short questions so that they could talk.
So in my 30-minute recorded thing that I had to give them, I only asked 7 questions. And the rest of the time, the other person talked. And I felt a little bad about that. But the goal was that person talked. And they did.
I didn't do so well. I try to do better, but I'm a woman and I have a lot to say.
I have nothing to say about that. So we're going to take a listening exercise now.
Since active listening is so important, let's have some fun here.
This is where you need to really get into the chat. So if you haven't done it yet, you're going to need to do it now. I'm going to be going through some slides, and you're going to be listening. And the screen's going to be white, and you're just going to listen. And as soon as you think you know, even if it's wrong, type in the chat, what do you think you're hearing?
You can write multiple answers.
Right.
Like if you think there's a number of sounds
Yeah.
that are going to come up for a very short amount of time. And as soon as you hear and as soon as you think you know what that is, write it in the chat.
Most of the things I imagine you've heard before, but when you disassociate them with the picture, sometimes you don't recognize it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these. You're gonna hear, and then you're gonna see, and then we're gonna go to the next one. And please put in the chat. If nothing else, you can get them all wrong, and everyone else will enjoy your answers. So here we go. So how did you do?
I hope that was fun for you.
Hopefully you wrote your things down. Hopefully everybody could take a look and see what you did. When Susie, I made this, so I didn't get a chance to hear him without seeing him. But when Susie first did it, the one that she definitely got wrong was the stirring one. She thought that was something else. And the eating, she thought it was eating, but she thought it was eating something else.
Yeah.
You got most of them
Yeah, I
pretty
did
well.
pretty good. How'd you do? Maybe some of you counted it up. We didn't invite you to count it up, but how'd you do? Would love to know. Isn't that fun? If you are really actively listening and focused, sometimes without seeing, because we couldn't see until the answer was revealed, we get a different answer. And when we really focus on that active listening, it makes a difference.
And I think sometimes we miss so much because we don't actively listen. Several years ago, Susie and I used to go to prisons a lot, just working with people. And in the prison system, the guys we would work with, they had numbers. Now, they all had names. Their mommy and daddy gave them names, but in the prison system, they only had numbers. And I set out that the day that I was there with them, I would learn their name. And I was very intentional. I took my little black book, I took my pen, and when they said their name, I'd say, oh, that's interesting. I'd write it down. I'd say, was that a family name? Where'd that come from? And I have this system that I use to listen. And it made such a difference because throughout the day, I would begin to say, hey, Warren, hey, Vittorius, what do you know? And still to this day,
Very
I can
powerful
remember their
impact.
names because I intentionally listened. I didn't want to go in and say, hi, I'm Dan, this is your name, here's why I'm here, and totally forget who they are because the name is so important. And when you're a coach, you need to be listening for things that are very, very important so that you remember them.
Like names and other things that are said.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So listening, very important.
So actively listening. Here's a few questions for you. to process. How do you know when someone isn't listening to you well?
Ooh.
We want to invite you to just put this in the chat as well. You're so good at that.
Now, automatically, I'm sure it comes to your mind. There's a time in your life when you were talking to someone and something happened and you knew they were not listening.
Okay, this happened to me earlier. I just had to have complete openness and vulnerability. Dan asked me a question at dinner this night, okay? It was yesterday, today. He asked me a question at dinner and he got me engaged, and I'm starting to think about it. I'm starting to respond, and he walked away.
I had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, he had to go to the bathroom, and so when he came back, I was silent, and he said, "Oh, okay, are we done with the conversation?" I said, "Well, I guess so. You walked away."
She was talking to me when I was in the bathroom, so I was listening, but I wasn't eye to eye.
So I didn't know he was listening well, even though he thought that I was.
Sometimes what bothers me is when you're talking to someone, but they're looking over your shoulder.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know
yeah.
they're not listening.
Okay, and here's another one that happens often. You're talking to someone, they pull out their phone and they start scrolling.
Oh.
I mean, oh yeah, I heard what you said. Really? Well, it sure didn't look like it. So this leads into the next question. How does it make you feel?
Doesn't make me feel very good at all.
So when Dan did that to me, asked me the question, then walked away to use the bathroom, okay, valid point. But it made me feel like what I had to say was not necessary. How does it make you feel? Type it down right there in the chat. Drop it in the chat. How does it make you feel when someone does not listen to you well?
Yeah, for me, there's some reoccurring thoughts that come out. One is, I'm not enough. I don't belong. I can't tell a good story. I have no worth. A lot of those insecurity things come to me. That's how it makes me feel.
Yeah. On the flip side, on the positive side, what do you appreciate about someone listening to you? When they really have good active listening to you, how do you appreciate that? And what do you appreciate and how does it make you feel? I had a call this morning with a girl who was interviewing me. And we had a whole hour where she was asking me this whole list of questions. And she was actively listening. In fact, she recorded the whole conversation. She said she was going to listen to it later again. And I just thought, wow, she values my thoughts. I really appreciate that gift of her asking good questions and listening to me.
Sometimes we appreciate it when someone clears out the music, clears out the noise, and just leans in. That whole thing was an exercise because I know you had to listen past the music. It was a little louder than it should have been. And to hear what we had to say, you had to lean into it. And this is what we have to do as we listen.
That's right.
Those questions are very important, but what you did was even more important. You didn't give up. You listened in. What are they really saying? What's their story? And we have to understand that listening is not just with our ears. There are many ways that we listen.
Okay, so here's 5 ways we can actively listen. Mind, body, words, intuition, and the Holy Spirit. Let's start with the mind. How can we listen with the mind? What? Listen with the mind? Yes. This is one that I have to work on often because I am very easily distracted. And it is a gift to be listened to. So with my mind, I actively listen by I turn off anything else that I could be thinking of. If a story comes to mind or I get distracted of something, no, I want with my mind to be engaged so I can stay focused on the person that's talking, that's sharing, that's exposing themselves.
In some ways, it's like, have you ever seen one of those horses where they put blinders on and they have to keep going this way because they don't want to see the horse, the other horses or the field or anything? That's what we have to do with our mind. We also have to do that with our body.
Yeah.
The body, oh, wow. How many times have I been somewhere talking and someone's body, you can tell they're not listening. they're turning, they're looking around,
Do you
or
think
they've done this kind of thing, and you know they're not listening to what you're saying.
that's
Or
so
they're not
closed
happy.
body, right? Or like their body is like over here looking at something, and they'll glance over every now and then. Whoa, that's really hard.
Or checking their phone, of course.
That's hard to really know that they're
Yeah.
listening.
A body that's listening is a body that's relaxed and leaning in a little bit.
Eye
And
to eye contact, if that's
there's some
appropriate for
nodding
your
going
culture.
on. There's
Yeah?
there's something going on with the body that says, I'm listening. You put yourself into that listening posture with your body.
Okay, you can also listen with your words. Really? Listen with your words? This one's kind of like, how can that be? But if somebody's sharing, like we were saying, you can lean in and you can make sounds are a really good way to listen. Like, wow, uh-huh. I have this friend who's an amazing listener, and she's like, she's very empathetic,
That's
and so with
amazing.
words and sounds,
Oh, that's tragic.
just little
Words.
comments that are very engaged with whatever's being said and appropriate responses. Another way to actively listening, and we're going to learn about that in a moment, is powerful questions. So you might ask a question, how? Or what? And those might be very important active listening questions. Or maybe,
Tell me more. Tell me
maybe
more.
what else could be words that you might use as you actively listen?
Then we get down to the one that maybe is the most confusing. It's intuition. That's perception. Now, growing up, I always heard about woman intuition, that like this mystery, but guys have it as well. It's this ability to perceive something, to feel something, maybe from experience. It's not reason, but there is some kind of, I feel it here in my gut. I feel that maybe what this person is saying is not true or not complete, or maybe they're afraid to tell me sometimes when you're listening, you listen with your intuition, and you realize there's more to the story. And it causes you to ask more questions, because you realize they probably want to say something, but something's holding them back, or there's just, you can't put a title really on it except it's intuition, and follow that, because many times that'll open up some doors into that person's life.
In a similar way, but different, is listening according to the Holy Spirit. Now, this one takes, of course, connection to God, but God's Spirit works through us. And you might be in a conversation, you might be listening, and God's Spirit reminds you of a verse or a passage, or really a message of love from God to the person. There's other times that I've been in conversation or been in a coaching situation with somebody else, and there is no way I could know that. It wasn't really intuition. There is no way I could have known, except that the Holy Spirit just said, ask about their father. Ask them about their mother. Ask them if anything happened in the past. Or there might be something that the Holy Spirit reveals to you empathetically or in a direct message. And of course, that comes from having time and connection with God. So you know what his voice sounds like. You know verses of passage from the Bible that God would say. But that's another way to listen.
So I feel in this listening area, we have been feeding you or giving you a drink out of a fire hose. We want you to take a few moments and listen to yourself. What are you seeing or feeling for yourself in this? So in a moment, you're going to review these 5 ways to listen, and you're going to begin to add maybe other ways to the list that you listen. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you listen with your sense of smell. I don't know.
Could be.
But maybe there's some way that you listen actively.
Or things that help
that
you listen.
you want to add, that you want to be aware of, that this is another way that you actively listen.
And from the five ways to listen, I want to encourage you to choose one that you're good at. You can circle it. You can put a plus by it.
Because you are good at one.
And so just identify you are naturally more gifted at doing that. What about you? What are you naturally good at?
Body.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I can lean in well.
And I would say I'm quite good at vocal responses. And then secondly, choose one of those 5 areas that you need to improve in, that you're just not naturally good or you're not experienced in that. And just identify an awareness of those two things.
So one of my minuses there is mind. It's so easy for me to get distracted. So I really, when I'm coaching, have to put on those blinders.
That's mine too. Mine is mind.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we're going to give you 5 minutes here, and I want you to just there are 5 things we've talked about:
5
the
ways
mind,
to listen.
the body, the words, the intuition, the Holy Spirit. We're going to give you 5 minutes just on your own. We're going to play a little bit of music.
Process these questions.
Process these questions, and we'll have it all right here listed for you. See you in 5 minutes. All right. Well done. Well done. Hopefully
Bravo!
that was a good experience for you to listen to the things going on inside of you.
So you can grow your fully alive impact through two things. Active listening, we've been talking a lot about that. And now we're going to move into
Powerful questions.
powerful questions.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's the other part of the two, active listening and powerful questions. I want to invite you to look at this Proverbs chapter 20, verse 5. And I love this when we're thinking about powerful questions. The purposes of a man or woman's heart is deep waters, but a man of understanding draws them out. And that's what powerful questions do. And I really want to invite you to put up two muscles. This is the invite part. Oops, I got to come over here, right? Here's two muscles. We've got one muscle here, and we've got one muscle here, and that's going to help us understand some of the most powerful questions.
Are you ready to draw them out? These muscles are going to draw them out. It isn't pushing
the
them back.
muscles, the powerful questions are going to do that.
This isn't baptizing time. We're not pushing them down. We're using their muscles to draw them out. Now, before we get there to the muscles, the question we have to ask ourselves, we've read the Bible before. We know about Jesus. We're followers of Jesus. So I have to ask you this question.
Oh, good question.
How many questions did Jesus ask?
Take a guess. Type it down in the chat. Let us know. What are your thoughts? What is your guess? How many questions did Jesus ask? And the answer is...
And the answer... Wait a second. There's someone still writing. Don't be afraid. I'll do the drum roll again.
Okay. Just to prepare, right?
And the answer is, how many questions did Jesus ask? It was 307. In Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, it's recorded 307 times Jesus asked the question.
How do you know this?
Well, I looked them up.
You counted them.
I did.
And you
Every single
resourced it.
verse.
Yep. Okay, so 307.
So here's the other question I have to ask you. How many questions did Jesus answer?
Dun, 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 dun.
Very different.
Type your guess down in the chat. What do you think?
And don't be afraid of getting it wrong. You will get it wrong. Don't worry, you will get it wrong. Just imagine for a moment. How many questions did Jesus answer? You got it? Drum roll.
And the powerful answer is...
The answer is... I'm just waiting because there's someone still typing. They're like going, I'm going to type as soon as Dan is done talking.
It's like you're active listening right here. You're just like...
Three. Jesus actually only fully answered 3 questions. Now, there's about 50 of them he partially answered, but most of the time when someone asked him a question, he asked another question. Now, as followers of Jesus, we need to listen to this because I think we've become a religion of answers.
Yeah.
Give an answer, give an answer, give an answer. Like Jesus, give an answer. Wait a second. No, Jesus didn't give a lot of answers. He asked a lot of questions because he was drawing out from people. He was allowing them to stop and hear what the Holy Spirit was saying to them rather than what he was going to lay on them. And he drew them into a beautiful place. And I think that's what questions do.
Yep. Okay, so here are our 2 muscles.
Back to the muscles.
All right, so you've got them up. You've got 2 biceps. And our 2 most powerful questions that we can ask is what and how. We'll leave the what else for later, but the most powerful questions are what and how.
Now, this is when you're asking a question, you start with one of these 2 muscles. And sometimes you may not know what to ask. You just say, what? And then continue on. Or how? And continue on. So as people are talking, these are the kind of questions you give to them so that their answers will be open.
What made you think that? What have you ever done in the past that was successful? How are you feeling today? These are all open-ended questions. How did you understand that? How did your mom respond when you did that?
How did that decision go?
What were you thinking?
So all of these questions will result in a longer discussion. Now there are other
Very
questions.
open-ended. You're not trying to get one answer. You are going into those deep spaces in their heart and try to,
There are
to
some
allow
closed.
them to answer.
There are some closed questions. Does your mother know where you are?
Does.
Yes or no? That's a closed one. Don't coach with that. Do you know where your dog is? Yes.
Do.
When will you come over? 5
When?
o'clock. Where is my hairbrush?
Do you need a hairbrush?
No, I don't. I need a hairbrush. So there are some of these
Where
words.
is the dog? Downstairs.
A
There's
lot of
like
the
one
questions
answer.
that we ask
closed.
take people nowhere. But when you start with the muscles, what and how, it'll always move into a deeper place.
And then the what else comes after you ask what or how they answer. And then you can ask what else?
What else?
And what else? And what else? Because with multiple thoughts and multiple possibilities of the answers, it takes them deeper, deeper, deeper.
And one of the important things here when you're asking questions is you need to make sure you're quiet. Give them time to
Active
think.
listening.
And don't say why.
Oh,
Don't say why.
What's wrong with why?
Why?
What's wrong with why?
Why? Why becomes a little bit offensive. Why did you do that?
A better, more powerful one was
Puts them off
what
guard.
would make you do that?
Ooh. See, the what would make you do that is sort of asking why. They have to
It's
ask
going
yourself
deeper.
why, but you're not accusing them. Why are you late?
Oh, what made you late?
Very different.
Usually a what can replace a why.
So if you can, when you're coaching, don't use why. Stick with the muscles. What, how,
What, how, and what,
what
else?
Now, we have a few little tips as we finish here that I think this is the process as a coach you go through. If you are going to be actively listening and asking powerful questions, first you need to ask your question. Don't be afraid. Ask your question.
And
Make sure it
then-
starts with how, or with what, or how.
Just listen.
Just listen.
Here's another one. Don't repeat your question unless it's asked.
Oh, sometimes we want to repeat the question over and over. And in the process, we ask a different question and then a third question, and we stack the questions, and they
Confusing.
have no idea what we're talking about. Ask your question. What did you feel in that moment?
Then value the silence.
Not the science.
I know. Value the silence. That was a hard word for me. When you ask them a question, you might have that question on your list of questions to ask them in a small group setting, for example, or you might have thought through that question, but it might be the first time they're thinking about it, and they need some silence to listen and formulate a thought so they can express it.
Don't be afraid of the silence. And once they answer, wait for 5 seconds. Because most of the time, they're not actually
5
done.
seconds?
They think they're done, but if you wait, it'll give them time to say, and I think it's from my mother when she used to...
And also...
And then when they're done, wait 5 seconds. After the 5 seconds, if they're not talking, then you can ask something like,
What else? These are great pointers about powerful questions. Feel free to snap this slide if this is something that you haven't already written a note about. I hope you're taking notes on this, of these valuable principles.
So we're almost done. It's time for you to now do a little bit of practice. But we want to remind you that you can grow. This is a can. You can grow your fully alive impact. It's very possible through active listening and
Powerful questions. We're going to give you a chance to practice that right now with each other.
But before we do that, we just want you to know we're going to let you go into those small groups. You don't have to come back. You can get the information you need to of what's happening next. But we would love to connect with you. There's our information. Connect with us. If you have any questions, reach out to us.
Connect at doozy.com, WhatsApp, there's our numbers. or any way that we're connected on the social medias.
That's right. We would love to hear from you. But here's your assignment.
Okay.
It's time to practice.
So in a moment, you're going to be put into
Groups of
breakout
two.
groups. It will be groups of two. You're going to be in pairs, and you're going to practice this active listening and question asking. So this is how it's going to work. There's two of you. The one who is the oldest will go first. And each of you will have a chance to do this, but the oldest one, you're going to be thinking a decision I've got to make. Now, this needs to be a real decision, and you get to have the gift of listening through the process of this decision, talking about it.
It has to be a decision that you can talk about for 3 minutes. You're going to be talking for 3 minutes while the other person is listening and maybe asking a few questions.
So this should be a real decision, not just like, should I have rice for lunch or noodles? It's not something like that, but maybe a bigger one about a choice in a relationship, in your health, in some kind of a job opportunity, a discussion, a meetup. So a decision you've got to make. And then the other one will be practicing their coaching skills, active listening,
So here are
and powerful questions.
Here are the 4 points. First of all, focus on listening. Mind, body, words, intuition, Holy Spirit. Focus on listening.
You want to ask questions. Remember those powerful ones. What and how, and some what else when that's appropriate. So that's your verbal response.
Share for 3 minutes. So someone is to be watching.
The
3
one
minutes.
who is the coach is the one who's the timekeeper, okay? So you can set a little alarm for
So
yourself.
after the 3 minutes, thank the other one, switch roles, and go for another 3 minutes, and you switch.
And don't forget to have fun.
Have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it does not have to be perfect. Remember, this is practice. And we would encourage you in your real life as well to practice listening and asking questions. So after your 3 minutes, switch, and then the one who's younger will also present a decision that you've got to make, and the other will just practice being the coach.
We have loved being with you for these 3 sessions. And again, if there's anything we can do to serve you, please let us know.
All right, so it's time now for breakout groups. Thank you so much for joining us.
And may you live fully alive as you love your life, your world, and your God. My name's Dan.
My name is Susie. Together we are Doozy.
We want you to live fully
and love fully.
All right, over to you for this time of practice.
Okay, it is time for breakout groups right now.